Hi, everyone. So I wanted to share with y'all maybe a sneak preview of what we typically charge for. This is the first session in our proposal writing workshops that we have. And now, right now, they're on a Wix course, online course, so that you can actually watch them, on your own schedule, on demand. It's got quizzes at the end of it, also to-do lists if you want to see them. I mean, it's not homework, but I think it's helpful. And I think the more we talked about it, we were doing it 2 days back to back live and we were recording it. But y'all, by the end of the 2 days, I was exhausted. And I was with co-presenters. Teresa co-presented, Lourdes co-presented, Donna and Leah helping, but it is exhausting. And also the information is just too much, right? So what we decided to do, and this is from one of our team members, Raquel recommended, well, why don't we record it and put it into a course, online course, and have folks, that way they can come into it whenever they need to, whenever they want to, like, let me revisit. It's just organized, differently. I know, if you attended the live ones, you got the links and the recordings, but this is a little different. People seem to like it a lot more. It seems to be something that's better organized when we use the WIC course. And that's why I'd love for y'all to try out the umbrella regulation WIC course that we have ready to go free of charge, so you can get an idea of how the formatting is for this one. Now, this would be an unallowable cost, and we're talking about it during our lunch hours. So, we can't, try to get federal funds while we are on federal funds. But just wanted to show you a sneak preview of what the slide deck would look like. And of course, it comes with its own Google Drive, or in the WIC course, you have resources to do that. And I think any information there we could put, yeah, there you go. Thank you. I knew you'd do that, right? So there's information about our free stuff, signing up, and also getting more information about this. So let's check this out. And I'm going to go through it. And at any point, please ask me any questions. I am highlighting the EOC one right now because I didn't want EOC to be left out. And I guess maybe we could do a poll, Donna, maybe to see how many EOC people are here. Because if there's none, then I can switch over to Talent Search. But it's pretty much the same here. This overview mindset. So if you could let me know if you're with Talent Search or EOC, or both. Okay. As usual, we have more, but it's okay. I mean, I just don't want to. I feel bad, EOC, always kind of talking about Talent Search. So I think I'll just show the EOC, but the same overview and mindset goes for both programs. Slightly different in the need section point, in the points there, I believe. Total points are the same, but the questions obviously are different. Okay, so thank you. So yes, we do have more Talent Search, but I do, we do offer this for Talent Search as well. But what we talked about, and this is, we started talking about this summer, so I'll give you some updates here. And unfortunately, you won't get a chance to get these slide decks because those folks have paid for, but you will get the video. So at least you can look at our video and see what, this won't be in the Lunch and Learn Google Drive, okay? So just showing you and getting to the, information about proposal costs. I want to be very clear. Sometimes, believe it or not, every funding cycle, I have to break someone's heart and let them know, by the way, you weren't thinking about using proposal funds to pay us. Oh, we have a lot of indirect. I mean, we have a lot of carryover. I said, no. It's out of indirect funds or institutional or agency funds. You cannot use carryover funds. You cannot use proposal, grant funds to do that. And also your time and effort. That's what we do at lunchtime. You're not supposed to be getting, working on this during grant time. That's why we talk about doing it on weekends, after hours, or some sort of arrangement from your institution or agency, some sort of understanding where when you work on this during work hours, that it's coming out of a different budget or out of indirect. Not to be confused with training and education costs, which is our bread and butter during the rest of the time when we're not writing grants, is the cost of training and education provided for employee development is allowable. So the majority of the other services I talked to you about the APR technical assistance, attending an APR webinar, the budget management services we provide, also attending that's totally fine because it's directly related to the goals and objectives of the program, but we're not talking about trying to get funding for it. So funding for your program. So that's why we try to keep it separate. But sometimes it gets a little muddy, right? It gets blurred. The lines get blurred. Okay. So if you attend our grant writing workshop, either the live version recorded or the WIC course, you will have access to another Google Drive that does have all these slide decks for all of this. We talk about looking at the 2021 application. This is for EOC. We would mention in the Talent Search version the breakdown of the points to show you what to expect. Also, just give you a visual for both Talent Search and EOC as to where the majority of your points will go. Sometimes people need. I'm a visual person, so I want to check that out. And then let's talk about this: that the 2026 EOC and the Talent Search application. The correct terminology is the program application, but I'm old school, so I go RFP. I don't know if you are too, but I'm always talking about the RFP. So I'm going to use both terminology. I'm trying to get good about getting with the new terminology, which is not new, which is to always say the program application, which is the RFP. For Talent Search and EOC should have the same selection criteria as it did for 2021, for the 2021 application for both EOC and Talent Search. It should. Now, of course, what's going to be different, I know it has to be the competitive preference priorities, which I don't know what they are right now. There's some discussion. We've already talked about tentatively what we think they might be, but I'm not going to worry about that until they're final. Okay, I'm going to work on the drafts. I'm going to work on the items that give me the 100 points first, and then worry about the CPPs later, because I can't worry about something I don't have access to right now. So I do have access to the 2021 EOC application, or the RFP, for both Talent Search and EOC, which is in the Google Drive for the Lunch and Learn. Okay, we did put that in there. Okay, so far, you're getting the same thing that you're getting the grant writing workshop, and we're letting you know, start working on it right. You should have already started working on it, but if you haven't, I don't want to say should have. Now is the time to go ahead and start. I know we were waiting to find out, are we even funded for this year? Everyone received their GAN. So, let's move forward. Let's think positive. The data collection for the needs section takes the longest. If you had to, I don't wish this on you. I don't want you to have to crank out the rest of the application in just a couple of days. But, there's some things that you can control, and you can, I don't recommend it. You want to take your time on that as well, but it's the needs section and the applicant and community section that is out of your control. Basically, you have to rely on outside data, outside information. EOC, you really have to talk to folks in the target area to get a lot of the baseline for your target area, for the objectives for the target area. I was just texting with someone who was wanting me to write EOC, and they said, well, how long does it take? Just like I'm telling y'all, and with Talent Search too, if I had to, I could do it in a weekend. I mean, I don't want to do it, but what I can't do is that needs section. That takes back and forth to get the data that shows the need. It's out there, but especially with EOC, it's not readily available. So you have to start right now. When we talk to folks about writing as though they're new, some people say, oh, I thought I can't mention that we're an existing program. When I glance at your abstract as a reader, I'm going to know immediately if you're existing or you're going for new funding, based on the number of people you're asking to serve, pretty much. Or I could look ahead and, and find out quickly, if I see that budget that's higher than what the new programs are allowed to get, the game's over. But you see, there's nothing wrong with being an existing program. You just don't want to go on and use that as the answer to the questions in the needs section, or why you're, why is there's a need, but that's why they still need us here, because you've been here 20, 30, 40 years. Not a good look. And then in the objective section, when it's ambitious yet attainable, again, for both Talent Search and EOC, if you state, well, it's attainable because we've always met our objectives all these years. And we've always gotten our prior experience points. Not a good look either. Also in the plan of operation, identification. I once read a proposal that said, well, because the program's been here for 25 years, there's very little identification of students that is needed since we have a waiting list. Not a good look. So that's what I'm talking about. Don't hide the fact that you're an existing program, but don't use it as a crutch. Don't use it as a reason. Try to avoid bringing it up so that you know how you try to like not bring it up so it naturally comes through, so you're kind of restraining it in a way, because I don't want you to think in the past that it maybe you thought helped you, or when you were getting quotes in your needs section for both EOC and Talent Search, when you ask people to say, well, what's the dropout rate here? Okay, can you tell me why it's so high, or why the college enrollment rate is so low for the target area? I'm talking for both for Talent Search and EOC. And they tell you, well, it would be lower if it wasn't for y'all helping us all these years. And some people say, oh, that's good. They say it's low, but it would be lower if we weren't helping them. And I'm like, no, in the needs section, you want them, your target school folks, to give you reasons why it's so low. Why do you think the college enrollment rate is so low for these target areas? We could come up with something. I'm sure I could Google real quick and come up with some fabulous sounding reasons, but I need someone there who works in the target area or the target schools to say, the director of GED programs at X, Y, and Z says the college enrollment rate for adults is so low because of the following reasons. The target school counselor says the college enrollment rate for students from this high school is lower or is low because of X, Y, and Z. Don't bring up, oh, but we're here to save the day. And a lot of times when you get quotes from folks, they'll, especially if they like your services, they get a little confused and they try to give you a positive spin on it. Like, yeah, it's low, but that's why we need y'all. And you're like, okay, so take it, but first get the reason why they think it's so low. And then just forget to insert, but that's why they need us, because we've been here for so long, and sometimes it's hard to get people to kind of stick to the problem, and they try to give you praise, and which is great, because you could use that quote even through the same interview with the target school folks. Some of the stuff they tell you hopefully is praising your program. Okay, you could use that for your brochure or on your website, or how they say client testimonials, report and evaluation would be awesome. But I'm not going to use that in the needs section because it's all gloom and doom. Okay, like there's no hope. We want the problem. We want them to state the problem. So sometimes talking to them, you get two things for the price of one. You get the reason why it's so dismal, why the baseline is so low in the target area, the specific reason they think, because they're the professionals, they're the experts, and you quote them. At the same time, if they're praising you, you can put it in another pile that you can use later on in a different sort of document, but not in the proposal. Okay, so again, that's what we mean by don't write as though you're new. Don't go on and use those questions. But I spent a lot of time on this because I've noticed in the last competition, and in the SSS competition, that the readers were harder or more intense with older programs. Okay. When you write so many proposals like we do for new funding and for existing funding, and some of the steps exactly the same, we notice that our continuation grants lost points in areas where the new ones that we got funded did not. Okay. We got a lot of perfect scores. They loved it, they got the highest scores they could, but they didn't have enough money, so they were on that funding band. Whereas the same language was in a continuation proposal that lost points. So, I think there is some bias against older existing programs. Okay. And again, when you're talking and writing, you've got to assume or write as though the person reading it is an uninformed reader. Okay. It's not you. You're not writing for yourself. You're not writing for each other or even people at your institution or other TRIO colleagues. Okay. You're writing to an outsider. You're writing to someone like someone who vaguely knows about the programs. I mean, I know a lot of times they get experienced people to do this, but you have to assume, or you want to spoon feed them anyway and make it easier for them. Sometimes they pick more. They're assuming something. What if I didn't know what low income or first generation means? Which, by the way, we'll talk about that too, how some of that terminology after I first state it's in the regulations, I might switch over to say EOC eligible or talent search eligible instead of the low income or first generation or disadvantaged. Okay, that's one of those trigger words that is listed in the Lunch and Learn listing. We have a couple of documents there to tell you what to watch out for. So that's listed there. When you also assume that your readers are uninformed, it's a different way to write. And for some of us, it might be a little bit more challenging when we have to break it down and not assume things. And like our identification is different from recruitment. We wrap it up together, but I have to force myself to split it apart into 2 steps. So we actually have identification, recruitment, and selection have to be split up in 3 different steps. The plan to inform the target area or the target schools, again, sometimes if you've been around for a minute, we fast forward and maybe skip identification or we skip the informing. And so we have to think back and make sure that the question asks for how do you inform the target, the target area, the target schools, and the partners or the agencies. So to me, that's 3 different questions that might have slightly same answers, but you have to tweak that. Okay. So don't assume it's someone going to get it and say, okay, well, that's what they're going to, they know what I mean. No. And you don't want to, you want to read your tables to the reader, mean the answer, especially in the needs section. You don't want to say, as table 1 indicates, the percentage of low-income individuals or low-income families in the target area is very high compared to state and national rates. No, you're going to tell me, as table 1 indicates, this percentage of target area families or, number and percentage of target area families are low-income compared to the state at parentheses and national rates. Okay, so you want me to get the information 2 ways. If I'm a reader who reads sentences, I can get it there in the first sentence. Usually you can answer most of the needs section questions for the baseline in 1 sentence, and then you introduce them to the table. Both ways. Maybe I get someone who's visual. And so that way I can get that person who wants to see the chart. And then underneath the table, I would put a quote. This is because, or the target, the GED directors state, or somebody there states that the high rate of low-income families in the target area is due to X, Y, and Z. Okay, a little bit, personalizing it. Someone asked me, well, I found this really good national statistic on how, wages are going down, and because of this, the rate, the income's going down, and we're going to have more low-income families. Isn't that great? And I said, well, it's great if you have it on national so you can compare it to, but then you need to get someone there to speak to if that's the case, or if they see that happening here in your target area. So you don't want to use national data unless you're comparing yourself to it and make it that your target area is doing worse in a certain problem that you found statistics for nationally. Or maybe you can use that national data as a conversation starter, I guess, to get your local people to go ahead and agree, oh yeah, that's happening here too. And let me tell you why I see it. So you see what I'm saying? So don't bring up national data unless you're going to compare your target area or target school to it to show the need, or bring it up to say something like, at the national level, we've seen, there's been a recent blah, 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 according to X, Y, and Z. So is the case here in the target area, according to the GED program directors, for example, and bring up how they see that this is the case here as well. Okay. So again, in the needs section and most of the proposal, if you can, the question, you answer it in 1 sentence, you bring up refer to the table, and then underneath the table, give a reason why. Okay. Why in the target area is the college enrollment rate for adults so low? Why? And it can't be you as the writer or whoever's writing it for you, just making a statement. It can't be an editorial. It has to be almost like you're writing and you're an investigative reporter, you're doing a piece on something, you have to say, well, so-and-so says the reasons why are this, this, and this, or through a focus group or interviews or quotes, or says the target school counselor, or says the superintendent's office. Or if you're lucky enough, maybe someone just did, an article or something, so you could kind of mimic that, or you could utilize that. But a lot of times it doesn't happen that easily. So you're going to have to be the reporter, so to speak. And that's why it takes a while. Like I was informing this person here. So that's why it's back and forth, depending on your rural, urban, have y'all already, are well known in the community? Do you interact frequently with your target school and target area liaison, so to speak? If you haven't been talking to them for a minute and only pop up once every 5 years, it's going to be a little difficult. Okay. You want to think and write like a reader. That's what I say. You want to pretend that, okay, if I was scoring this, am I breaking it down? Did I leave something out? Am I telling them to go back to or look forward or look back? Like as you can see back on page 2, that's not also a kiss of death. You might have to, if it's that important, you might have to repeat it for the readers so that I keep them here. I never want them to go forward or look to the future. I want to make sure they get everything they need here so they don't have to go back and looking for stuff. I was going to say the best thing that ever happened to me learning how to write proposals is when I signed up to be a Department of Ed peer reviewer. And if you click, you can go, and I believe we might have this in the Lunch and Learn. And of course, everything's shut down right now, but that was a great way to be on the other end of actually going through the process. And let me tell you, people can tell you can sit through these grant writing workshops, but when you have to be a peer reviewer, that's when it clicks and you go, I got it now. I know exactly what they need. They want you want to answer questions, or you want to find answers to the question as quickly as possible. It's not how we were taught to write, growing up, write an introduction, then tell me a story, then get to the dramatic ending. This is the opposite. It's like, here's a question, give me the ending and work your way backward. Because a reader who may have 10 of these to read doesn't want, they may do it on the first one, but after that, they're drained. They're like, just where's the answer? Here's a question. Where is the answer to the question? So we keep it simple and short. If you've got narrative that you want to add, put it after you answer the question in one sentence if you can, or as soon as possible. That's the trick. Answer the question as soon as possible, as simple as possible, in a simple table. And then if you got room, then you go in to explain that table a little bit more if you want to. Okay. But if you visually make it appealing so that they can read the table without reading it, that's great. You want to make sure it's a quick read, no more than 2.5 hours max. We spend sometimes 2.5 years writing it, sometimes 2 months, sometimes 6 months. You want to develop something so that when it's handed over to someone that they can go through it very quickly. A quick read is a good read. And right now, you don't want to worry about the CPPs. Like I told you, the page limits, spacing, ugly is good right now. Just put some content in there. Begin drafting your sections right now, please. Right now, you have the technology. You can build it. You have the 2021 narrative. Act like it's final. Okay. Look at the sections. I've told y'all before that you want to go ahead and take, if you've got your 2021 proposal and award, tear it up again, break it out into sections right now, put 2026 draft in the watermark and start updating them. Okay. Updating them. You want to make sure you have tables, charts, bullet points, underlining bold items. I know that may drive you crazy. I once had a client tell me, Lisa, this drives me crazy. Seeing all these underlying, all these things and bullet, why can't we just have straight narrative? I said, because I'm trying to avoid pages of straight narrative, because those will get, people will read and miss things. So I purposely try to, I've got too much sun coming in here, sorry. I purposely try to go ahead and break it up on purpose. Okay, so hey, it's annoying you, but you're sick of it, right? We've been looking at this plan of operation for like forever and a day. But a reader is just going to see it one time and go through it, and they're going to appreciate how everything is jumping out on the page, okay, for them. I promise you, okay? And again, you want to repeat yourself throughout the narrative sections as needed, okay? You don't want to say, go back there or go back here. You know, a big example is in your applicant and community support section. Actually, in your plan of operation, where it talks about how you're going to collaborate with other programs, you know, yeah, collaborate with other programs. Well, those same programs can be some of the programs in the applicant and community support that are going to work with you later on too. So it's okay. In fact, it should be repeated. Also, in your applicant and community support section, a lot of y'all this time around say that the college is going to cover or has to cover some items like computers and printers and things like that. So you may bring it up in the applicant and community support section is great. A perfect example, this weekend, I was reviewing a budget and I said, hey, there's no staff computers or printers here. And I was like, that looks weird to me as a reader. I would say, hey, the budget, I'm going to take a point off because the budget doesn't seem to support, you know, because you were talking about databases and running reports, and I don't see anything. How are they going to do this without printers or computers? She goes, oh, you know, well, the college is providing that. Like, I'm crazy, right? The college is going to cover that. I said, how was I supposed to know? I went back. I said it wasn't in your applicant and community support section draft under resources that the college would provide, or in this case, the target schools would provide. That needs to be stated there. If you can, put a cost to it if you can, but definitely tell me how many, brag about it there. And then don't forget in the budget section, even if you put, you know, printers and computers and put 0, put a little mark so I can read in the budget narrative. Please note that the target schools or the college will be providing the technology for the staff, you know, printers, computers, internet, you know. So you're reminding me, okay? So that's a perfect example of being, you know, repeating yourself to make sure. Also, if you've got a less than a 50% director, less than 100% director, sorry. You want to make sure your percentages match. Somebody lost points last time around because they said earlier that the director was maybe 50% and the budget said 100%. So they're getting that, you know, picky about things. And again, you don't want to assume that a reader will remember or return to a previous section, you know, and for you. You know, they may do it the first time. A first-time reader, bless their heart, puts their heart and soul and will spend 6 hours going through their first proposal as a reader because they want to help you. But by the end of the 6 hours, they're like, okay, time is money, and they're not paying me a lot of money. And I feel exhausted. I was working for this grant. I feel sorry for the second grant they read. They're going to get it, you know, they're going to get it because that person's tired, hangry, a little poor, and like, I'm exhausted. I'm not going to do that anymore. And so the second one they read is going to get it. They're going to want to be, you know, everything, you know, provided to them, a spoon fed, you know, spoon feeding the reader is what I call it. So you want to write that way all the time. Okay. Let me stop here for a second to see if anyone has any questions. Plus, I'm going to close these curtains here. Any questions or comments, anything in the chat? I don't know, Teresa, if you want to add anything. I feel kind of bad, just kind of taking over here. I feel like Houston in the blind. Y'all can still hear me, right?
No, somebody just came. I just got distracted. So literally, literally, I missed your question.
Oh, no, I'm always doing that to you, right? Now, I was just saying that I was trying to fix the curtain here. I was wanting to know if you had anything to add about that, you know, writing like you're new, but you're not avoiding that you're existing. And also, you know, if you've experienced being, I'm sure you've been a peer review reader, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. I have been a peer reviewer, and so I think that when it comes to writing like you're new, I mean, I try to write like I'm new, but I don't. I mean, it's still going to come through that you're an existing program because you'll be using past tense. In some sections, it just kind of feeds into that. Like when you get to the institutional, well, depending upon which trio you're writing, but if you're talking about your institution and community and things of that sort, I mean, I feel like it does help to say that you have trio experience and you know they've been partnering with you. You know, however you write that up, there's just some areas where it's just going to come out because of your tense and things of that sort.
Yep, true. Some of it you can't avoid. And also, you brought up a good point. I'm even if it's Teresa, last time I lost points because I said that they will do something. The project will
Hmm.
get letters of
Yeah.
commitment,
Yeah.
and they were existing. So they took a point away, y'all. I turned off my video because it's just not working out. I need to make a note of that. High noon here. So I was like, not going to happen again. So
Mhm.
everything now is in the present tense. The project has letters of commitment on file. The project is implementing or
Mhm.
everything right. I learned my lesson. So even if you're going for new funding, put it as though it's happening. Put it as though that's what I would recommend, Teresa. I don't know,
Yeah, and my tense, and so when I am writing, I'm thinking back to past the need section when we start talking about um, the plan of operation. Well, not the plan of yeah, the plan of operation, the beginning sections. I
Mhm.
mean, I speak in the active tense as though I have it because I do, you know.
Yep.
And I speak from an action-oriented perspective versus I will. So I don't, I try to do a word search for the word will, because I tend to speak in more like we actually have it just in my tense. So yeah.
Totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. We have a couple questions here. So if we already have things such as computers and printers because we're existing grants, do we list that? I've created a replacement schedule for various equipment to rotate what we need over the 5 years. Okay, what I would recommend is that you act like you don't. Don't tell me you just bought a whole bunch of new computers with carryover. I mean, you write that budget, and even if you include two computers for staff and a printer that they share, that's something. And then when you get, because I don't want you to lose points because don't, it's tricky, but you don't want to, um, sometimes you don't want to volunteer information and you want to make it look like you need the funds to support the program. So I would force it. I would force mention that you need staff computers. Um, and then when you get funded, when I do my real budget, I just won't put any money in there if I don't need it. I
Yes.
mean, God forbid something could happen, right, Teresa? And you could totally
Yes.
lose that stuff
Yes.
and need it. Um, but I would not want to risk losing a point because someone missed, because you could have said earlier, or even if you put it in your narrative, please no, we didn't put any money for computers because we just bought some. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're reminding me you're existing. I didn't want to be reminded of that. So thanks for reminding me because then I can be really beating it picky. But then I would even me, I'm a you don't want to get me as a reader because I'd be like, oh, something could happen. She should have put some, should have put $1 down. No, just kidding. One laptop, a couple of computers, because otherwise I could say, what's going on here? I could miss it. Remember, I'm doing a fast read. I am not, breaking it down like a book club, and every week talk about a section of your grant and talk about it with other people. Nope, it's pretty much solo. Someone said I had connectivity issues off and on. Did I say something about an estimated timeline? I wish I could say that you missed that, but no, I did not say anything about that because I really don't know. At this point, with everything trying to get pushed back, it's I don't know. I mean, at this point, I know I have to have a timeline. I'm working on it as though it's going to be due in January. Let's put it that way. That's just speculation. It could be pushed back further. Teresa, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but in my mind, I'm trying to get my stuff done by the end of January.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the sooner you can start, the sooner you can get more done, the better, because we just don't know when it's going to be released. And then also, when it is released, the time frame, I think I talked about this before. There were grants that had 30-day turnarounds by the U.S. Department of Ed back in
Mhm.
July. So, the sooner you can get in there and get started, the better.
That's true because, right, it could be, okay, y'all waiting for this? Okay, 30 days. And you're like, what? Wait a minute. What happened to the draft RFP? What happened? Oh, no, no,
Hmm.
no. This is the
Hmm.
real deal. All right,
Hmm.
it's due in 30 days. Yep. You've had the 2021. We didn't change anything when we threw in the CPPs, you
Hmm.
know. So when let's say, again, speculation, I don't know, y'all, I don't know. But let's say, let's just pretend for a second that we knew we go back to 2021, and I believe it was due in February, Teresa, I think, in 2021 for talent search, and I think later for EOC. I want to have all my sections done, maybe not merged together, but I want to have all my sections done, final drafts done by the time before the RFP comes out, or the program application. Because you're
Yeah.
going to use those 30 days to do the formatting, to, number one, look at the CPPs and the objectives, because maybe the wording might have changed. That's what I always look for right away. Did they change and mess with any of the wording of the objectives? Then the CPPs. Then I start worrying about the formatting and will it fit and that kind of thing. But I am not starting to write. And Teresa, people will contact me 2 weeks after the RFP has come out. Hey,
Yeah.
can you write our proposal? How's that? No.
Yeah, that's probably the worst situation, because a lot of people are gonna turn them away at that point, because it's crunch time, and anything that you're working on, all the clients that you have that you're working on, are the priority at that point. So
Yeah, exactly. So don't get into that. So that's why you want to review the EOC and the talent search program application. You want to look at the narrative section criteria. I have listed here where it is for EOC. I bet you it's maybe in a similar place in the talent search one, but act like that's final. And what you want to do is copy and paste the narrative section criteria, the questions in the needs section, for lack of a better word, from the program application, the RFP, and put them into separate Word documents, or take your existing proposal, make sure when you split it up into the different sections, the need, objectives, plan of operation, make sure that the question from the 2021, the actual question is there. Some people said, oh, I'm going to save space. I'm just going to put need and put all the narrative. I said, no. Well, we could save so much space, Lisa, if we took out the questions. I said, no, you want to put the questions there because I don't trust these readers to stay on track, and get lost. And the last thing you want them to do is get lost in your proposal, right? Just like when you get lost, like I get lost here in Zoom. Oh, it's so frustrating. So you want to make sure you make the space. I'd rather take out not worthless, but narrative that won't score me any points, just makes me feel better, but probably won't help me score any points. I'd rather throw out narrative like, for example, I was a community-based agency for a long time, submitting these grants. If I'm a community-based agency in talent search, I have to get commitments from my agency in that section, applicant and community support, as to what they're giving the project. I have to get commitments from the target school. And then because I'm an agency, I have to get commitments from colleges, but not other agencies. So I always thought it was better. Well, I'll get the colleges for sure. And then I'll also get agencies, because we were tight with the agencies. So I wanted to brag about that. Well, it's better to cut out the agency mention, because I am an agency. The readers are going to be looking for the community. I'm sorry, the college connection, because I'm an agency. So I needed that space so I could put do some more formatting, and also put in the questions separated and easy to find, because I'm trying to make the proposal match the score sheet. Okay, so I want to make sure my questions are bold, and they do take up some space, right? So I made that decision, and some people still have a hard time letting that go. If you're a college, when you get to applicant and community support section for talent search, if you're a college, they want you to talk about community-based organizations, the commitments, not from other colleges. And I have a couple of clients here that are struggling because they don't have that many community college connections. So that's a weak part, but they have a whole bunch of commitments from other colleges. And I'm saying they're not going to be looking for that. Even if you had 3 pages, if you're a college, you had 3 pages or a whole table of these commitments from other colleges, they don't count toward any points. You need to have a handful of collaborations with or commitments from community-based organizations. And those don't happen overnight. And they also should not be things that are on campus already, like part of the campus. Like, oh, here's the food bank, or here's this program for, university parents. I said, yeah, but it's connected to your college. It needs to be a separate community-based organization. So sometimes that takes a minute to make sure you have that. And again, you're not looking for a large listing of community-based organizations, that section. But if you just, I would recommend at least 3. And if you could try to go ahead and make sure that there are some bullets of commitments from them, like space, possible providing services to the participants and their parents if they're eligible. And always I ask for, well, can you provide, my staff with some in-service training? And we'll do the same with your staff. Our staff, or I'll come over and talk about the college and financial aid process and financial literacy, just so that your staff can inform, their program, their clients in their program. And then you all, can come and train my staff, to do that. So don't forget about that cross training, or that getting professional development. And if you're an agency, from your board members, so keep that in mind. So again, we're talking about the applicant and community support section that takes, some time to build. So you want to make sure that those are updated first. Your needs section starts being updated with new updated data, and also your applicant and community support section. And if you're a college, you're looking for community-based organizations to be in that last part of that section. And if you're an agency, for Talent Search, you're looking for colleges. Okay. You want to go and dust off as much as you hate, or hopefully you can find these. And that's why we have people pull them up in compliance assessments. Where are your reader scores from last time around? I love to read me some some application technical review forms, especially of programs that lost points. I mean, that's that, in fact, if you'd like to share them, we can take off any identifying information, or if you just want to copy and paste the question and what was taken off. And this is available to y'all. I did upload this in the Lunch and Learn, the lessons learned spreadsheet, where we're trying to collect for EOC and Talent Search across the board, not only the ones that we lost points on, but from other folks that want to share. So we can kind of, hey, this is what, these readers took off for me, this for EOC, for Talent Search. So it just lets us know, wow. And I learned so much from that. I don't know if you do, Teresa, too, but I learned from that. And I try to, make sure I don't, do the same thing. And some things I've been doing forever and a day for over 30 years, and realized this last time, can't do that anymore for Talent Search. So I don't know if you've had that situation come up. If you have any questions, let's see. I don't think we have any questions here. Again, you want to become one with the grant application. Read every single page. Start reading the 2021 one. I promise you, 99% of your answers are going to be there. 99%. And I promise you, I'll bet you that the 2026 one is going to be almost exactly the same. In fact, to the point there, some of the stuff will have last year's information in it, or last competition that they didn't update. I doubt that they'll have time to do any major changes to it. So, how we tell our students test familiarity, like with their studying for the GED, right? Just the format itself can throw you off and can be intimidating. The SAT, the ACT, the format is like 50% of it. If you get used to the format, if you get used to the language, if you start marking that 2021 RFP as to where the information is about the CPPs, even though they're going to be updated, and about what needs to be collected, and also about the workspace, right? About submitting the darn thing. There's been a lot of turnover. So you want to make sure that whole thing with grants.gov and getting registered and all that stuff, and the workspace, you know what? Do it now in chunks. If promise me you'll look at the program application and read the first 10 pages, go through the first 10 pages and mark up, flag something, or just casually read it and then put it down, come back another day and read another 10 pages. Just get used to that. I promise you that the questions that we get, and usually, people are like, oh my God, panicking about the questions. And I can, if I had time, I could copy and paste or tell them what page to go to the RFP to get that application. So, and I'm not talking about the content or writing the grant, but about the pieces, because the narrative is just one piece. The narrative is just one piece of many documents, including that GEPA form, which we're going to have to do. We talked about this, Donna, right? About having a free webinar on the GEPA itself, but we also put that in the lunch and learn. So get used to that. Work on the GEPA. You can pretty much work on the GEPA statement that you're going to have to do a separate one for EOC versus talent search from what you've done before. This is something we've never done before, is to come up with a customized GEPA statement. We have a couple of examples for Gear Up and SSS in the lunch and learn. Start working on that and make sure it doesn't contain any trigger words. Okay. So that alone is one headache. So it's like, okay, I don't have the updated application, but I pretty much know what the process is. Let me start clicking off some things that I can do and updating some things so I feel a little bit better about that. Heck, even the table of contents, if you just want to update it without any page numbers yet, that's a relief, because I can't tell you how much I dread doing a table of content to the point where I'm like, no, we're not doing it anymore. I can give you templates. That's a pain in the butt to do. So those little things will add up and really take your, make your life a little easier. If anything, mentally, you'll feel, okay, that's done. That's done. I'm doing whatever I can do. I read, another 10 pages in that RFP program application. I double checked that about grants.gov. I've read about the workspace. Okay, good to know. I'd forgotten this stuff from 5 years ago. I have to do it too. When you are getting close to getting your draft, you want to get folks that will be for real with you and tell you the real deal to give you feedback. Somebody that's really good for me is like one of my sisters who kind of knows what I do, but they're not, they're professionals in their own right, and they understand. They've, through osmosis, being around me, have picked up on stuff. But I want them to read, and give them a section. I don't want to, none of them is going to be, oh yeah, I'll read the whole thing for what, I'm going to have to really, kind of deal with her to get the whole thing. I just want her to read a section. And you could do that. You could get different people to read a section at a time. All they need, they should be able to read the questions for that section and read that section and be able to give you feedback, real feedback. And hey, let me know if something doesn't make sense, if something's unclear. And I'm not looking just for, somebody to check my grammar. The content, did I answer the question? Did I answer the question? Okay. Please let them know to be for real. They have to be for real and let you know. So sometimes I think sometimes taking your grants to conferences and workshops to be read by other TRIO people, I prefer to have someone out of TRIO reading it. Okay. Because you and I already, we can cut through a lot of the stuff because we're kind of literally on the same page. We know it, we can understand each other, but I'd prefer to get someone who's on the outs to do that. So anyway, this is just information about our lunch and learns. We do have a competition group for folks that are involved in or sign up to be in the proposal writing workshop. This has been updated, and this is the link here for the updated. Donna, this is what I was talking about. See here, how the visual here can be updated. I did put here in the Google Drive, you do have the updated one, which starts in July and ends in January. And that's the timeline we're using. I don't know if it's right or wrong. Please don't run around saying Lisa says it's going to be due in January. I have to give myself a deadline. Otherwise, I won't get started, right? So I'm like pretending that it's due in January. That's what I have to do to myself. It's due in January. Again, Lisa's pretending it's due in January, not that it's due in January. Okay. I can't state that. I'm pretending. We do have a group here. We do have some free groups for general TRIO questions. If you're a member, you can be part of our free groups that we have. We have open ones for general TRIO questions. We have one for each TRIO program. Then we also have a closed group. We do have for our EOC and Talent Search competition group, we have a closed group where you can ask questions there. And also, I'm going to start, and I have been getting good about it lately, is anytime I see something interesting or when I get any information, I post it here. And rather than post it as a blog post, I will start posting it here. That way, even my own clients, I'm asking them to get on this so that I don't have to individually email everybody, hey, here's the latest national information, or hey, here's some information or a website that might be useful. I want to be able to post it here for both EOC and Talent Search for people to see instead of trying to email it or post it individually. Okay. So let's see here. And so that's kind of an overview. I use the EOC version of what you would get as your first session with all these other resources. But I will say that you probably have close to 75 to 80% of the materials we mentioned here, we went ahead and put in the free Lunch and Learn. It's the other, what we have another 9 sessions, right, ladies? 9 sessions where we go through each section in a similar manner with links that with examples that are in that Google Drive. Okay, we have one for Talent Search and EOC. So hopefully, it takes money to make money, but this money, of course, has to be indirect costs or agency or institutional funds. It cannot be grant funds. So let's see if we have any questions here. I don't think we have any questions, right, Teresa? I don't think so.
No questions.
Okay, well, hopefully you found this helpful. Let me know. It's a thumbs up or something there if this was helpful, even though we talked about EOC. The same thing can go for Talent Search. Get started. If there's no way for you to get indirect funds or outside funding, I'm hoping through the resources in the free Lunch and Learn that will be helpful, so you're not out there on your own. But if you could, we really recommend, especially the WIC course, because I think that's going to fit most people's schedule, that they'll have to be working on this after hours or on the weekends, and that way it could be on demand and you can always go back and see the recordings. Okay. And also it lets you in the group. So if you have any questions of our instructors, you can ask there and we can answer you as well. So thank you all. And let's go ahead and stop the recording. This will be on their YouTube channel tomorrow and also blog post. Thanks, Teresa. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Donna. And thank you all. And y'all try to have a great week. Okay.